Hey everybody, Jim Chester here from Chiro Fest 2019 out here in the Pacific Northwest. I have Tracy Wilson with me here today. He's a part of my inner circle of brotherhood and tribe, so thank you, Ed, for bringing us together.
Right on.
Sometimes you don't have to go looking for it, sometimes it finds you, and today we found each other.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, it was, I've seen you at a lot of different events. I've seen you doing a lot of things on social media, and so today I just thought, man, I got to go over and say hi to you. So,
in Jim Chester fashion, what did I do? Let's do an interview, bro. So here we are. And the topic that we're going to talk about, before we get into that, I'm going to say thank you to Paul Reid for bringing us together for this amazing opportunity. And I see Hubbard over there, so hey, Hubbard, what's up, boss? But Paul Reid, let's just say a couple nice things about what he's doing to bring chiropractors together and a larger community.
Well, I mean, you can't say enough about not only the quality of the people that are here.
Dude, I saw the lineup.
I mean, the lineup's insane, right? But just the attendees. The MC, Hubbard, I mean, he needs some help, but he just walked off. But it was one of those, I mean, truly, the people are fascinating. The speaker lineup is amazing. The causes that are here are amazing. So you just can't get much better than this.
It's like the who's who of chiropractic.
It really is. It really is.
And I know that you had your pin here is the Australian Spinal Research Foundation.
Right on.
Let's talk a little bit about that too.
So Craig Foote is one of the speakers here, and if you don't know him, I mean, he's just amazing. There's a lot of issues for chiros that are happening in Australia. One of them being that they're removing the right for kids to be checked. Right now, under the age of 12 in Australia, that's an issue. And I think they're here raising dollars in research because it just takes money to make research. Research then supports the governmental agencies. That's what they're looking at, is what's the research, not the case studies, not the stories, what's the research. And so they're there raising money. And if you're not a part of it, man, I know they can help.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring that to attention too, but the thing that you're working on right now is called the Dad Forge.
Right on.
And I know that you had some really cool things you're talking to me about off camera. So let's just kind of give the legs that hold up the stool and why you're going forward with this project.
So one of the projects is I've always had a really, really passionate attachment to dads. Like, I've ran some youth groups. I mean, we've done men's groups, we've done discipleship courses, and I've just had this deeper side of, like, there's just so much more for a man. And having daughters, I just had this passion that, there's so much more that a daughter can become if a father's involved. And you look at that. I remember when my kids were little, I read this book, and the book was called Follow Us America. And it just hit me that there's so many girls that don't have an influence of their father. And the highest percentage of them, what happens is you lose them. And they if you go into prostitution, if you go into prisons and you talk to them, many of them, they don't have a relationship with their father. In fact, I think it's like 98.2% of these literally hate their father. And I thought, golly, I never want to be that. So what is the other side of it? Is how do you be a fully engaged, awesome dad, right? And so how do you avoid that? And that's what we set out to do. And with my own children. And it was so funny, as a believer, they had the bracelets called what would Jesus do, right? And it was like, well, I don't know, Jesus didn't date, so what do you do? How do you find this moral compass? And so we began creating a path, and over the years we created one, and then a lot of dudes just want to know what was happening, how we did it, what was involved. And so we put the foundational work together, wrote a book, and that's going to be coming out later this year. And then we put an online program for dads to be a part of and a podcast, so it's just the legs.
And see, that's really cool stuff, because I know a lot of you guys out there probably struggle with your parental history with having moms and dads out there. So it's really important to know where we come from and not forgetting where we come from. Right. And I think that's one of the things that one of my brothers always tells me. His name's Dennis. So Dennis, if you're watching, love you, brother. He always says, Jim, the thing I like most about you is you never forget where you came from.
I love it.
And I think that one of the things that resonates with me as well is my pops left me when I was 5. So I had to basically raise myself with my older brothers and my mother, and I grew up a lot on the streets.
Yeah,
so I know what that's like. So when you start talking to me about these things, there's a huge resonance with me about the things that you stand for. So that's why I was like, we have to do an interview right now.
Amazing. That's amazing. Well, and we built a foundational framework, which was foundations that we kept finding every time I did it. So having a practice is amazing. It's been what I call my laboratory, right? And so I would see people doing it right, and I'd just start asking them, what are you doing? I'd see people doing it wrong, and I'd say, don't do that, right? So over the years, I just had this laboratory that I kept watching, and I found these consistencies, and the consistencies we made foundational rules. A couple that we talked about, right? Mm-hmm. The quality time happens amidst a quantity, that you got to be around, and if you're around, you're going to be involved. And that could be a good thing or bad. that rules without relationship equals rebellion. There's so many amazing people, but they're not in relationship, and so rules just make a rebellion. It's kind of how we run our life too. And so we began to do these, and then we just found out that the influence with your daughter matters. And so we started just putting together some process. And that's so when we interview people on the Dad Forge podcast, is that we're looking for other ideas in those 5 areas that men really need to find their way in.
And I know that you let's elaborate on those 5 areas a little bit more.
Yeah.
One of those is quality time, which you just discussed, but we don't want to force quality time either, right?
No, you can't, right? It'd be like coming up to your kids and go, it's 9 o'clock at night, I got 5 minutes, go. Like they're not going to really find that that's going to be valuable. What it is, it's what happens in the midst of all of it that it really does, right? It's how a man runs his fitness. It's how a man runs his family, his friends, and the influences in his life, right? How he forecasts, has a vision for where he's taking his family. And I think a lot of guys just don't even have that vision. They're tired, they're beat up, they're grumpy, their bodies are broke, their mind's broken. So as a chiropractor, we can work on so many of those. I just want to be able to work on the process in which a dad focused on his relationship with his kids.
See, that's amazing. And like being a family man is something that really drew me to Tracy today when he was talking to me about like what he's doing, and utmost respect for this man right here. Being a brother of mine in the Inner Circle group as well is something really special to me too. And I know you had a chance to speak on stage here this weekend.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you covered up on stage.
Excuse me. So I just come up with 5 Texas principles that you can apply to pediatric practice. We have a family pediatric practice we're talking about. And they're really simple, is that there's nothing more stupid than running the wrong direction enthusiastically, right? And so as we take those ideas, and you take that to family or practice, and then there's nothing more powerful than running the right direction enthusiastically. So if I keep running west looking for sunrise, and I'm never going to find what I'm looking for. And so many people in practice don't have a vision of where they're going and what they want to see. And if they say they want to have a family practice, then they're breaking so many other rules along the way. And then we just talk through the idea that comparison really breaks down the joy that I have in my life. And so many chiropractors compare themselves to others. They're constantly comparing themselves. The only thing we should compare ourselves to is who I was yesterday. And if I can get better than who I was yesterday, then I know that I can win. And that's the strategy that we put forward. So we talked a few minutes about all those.
That's awesome. And, just for me to be able to meet the influencers of this beautiful profession of chiropractic, it's changed my life. And I know that without me here doing these interviews, we don't get the message of ChiroFest outside the 4 walls of this event. So it's really important for us to continuously do the churn and the work that we're doing, because actually what we're doing is we're documenting the profession as we go forward. And something I share with Tracy off camera here is this is my 10th year. I just realized that this is the weekend anniversary of my 10th year working in chiropractic, and I didn't share this with anybody else, but this is the first time I let anybody know that.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. Those milestones do matter. I mean, I there's a lot of chiros out there that are crossing. I remember when I crossed 20 years of being a chiropractor, it was like, holy cow, 20 years, and you just kind of feel like you're getting started. You know what I mean? Like after 10 years, do you feel that way?
I feel like it's just getting better.
Right.
And I feel like our team is just getting more matured. And I feel like that my understanding of the profession, not only for what it means for you,
right,
but to understand for what it means to them, and them all.
Right.
And all y'all, if you will.
All y'all?
I understand what it means for all y'all.
There you go.
Because I understand what it means from the new patient perspective, to the clinical direct perspective, to the chiropractic college perspective, to the people running things perspective,
Right on.
to the people that are like all intertwined within this profession, from like the lay person that's never been adjusted once to the person that's been running an institution for 20 years.
Right. And when we're talking about this, so many times it's so powerful to understand what we do as chiropractors. But one of the things that I covered on stage today, as I said, people don't realize that when somebody makes it, say we put somebody on a 24-visit care plan, they've made the decision by visit 6 or 7, maybe 8, whether they're ever going to renew that plan or not. Right? This is powerful because the thing of it is they've already made that decision on how they've been treated in that first 6 or so visits, whether they're ever going to continue before or not. Now, we think as chiropractors that, hey, listen, they've been under care, they've done this, they did a care plan, there's automatically another one. That's not true. If somebody's paying as they go, the number one spot we lose them is between visit 6 and 8. Sometimes it's because it's got what they wanted, sometimes it's because they haven't got what they wanted. Right? And so it's amazing how that is, but time just allows you the maturity to realize how powerful those relationships need to be, so that you can keep those people under care and keep changing families' lives, because the adjustment just does that. I mean, we gave a case study today of a child that's been just totally life-changing in our office, and all these chiros that are listening have that same thing. So keep telling your story. It's powerful.
Yeah, and with that said, I'm just going to go and close out and say thank you, all of you, for being on this live feed with me and Dr. Tracy today. This guy's an example of a great dad and a leader in this profession, and he's in my inner circle family, so I'm going to keep supporting him as much as I possibly can going forward. And the Dad Forge is something that you guys should all check out. What's the website that we can send them to?
The website is thedadforge.com.
Okay.
And the podcast is on all the typical podcasts.
So if you guys are looking for a new podcast to check out, the Dad Forge is where you should go. And if you guys want digital help in marketing and branding, go to Local Gold. It's over my head, behind my head. But check out that localgold.com and talk to Natalie over there. And if you guys want to be a guest on the Chiro Hustle podcast, send me a direct message. We'll make sure we get you on before the new year. And you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. We'll see you guys on the next one.